Hi, I am Kevin Quigley, and welcome to Tarot Off the Cuff. I picked up my first tarot deck in 1982 when I was 12 years old. I spent the summer giving readings to my friends and kind of freaking them out, and then I misplaced it. Maybe 15 years later, I picked up another tarot deck, and I've been reading professionally pretty much since then. Tarot reading for me is about building up a conversation. A conversation not just between myself and my client, but between our higher selves, so that we might bring down some information that might help make us a little bit more conscious and maybe even our lives a little bit better.
Hello, everybody. This is Kevin Quigley with Tarot Off the Cuff. I am shuffling Chris Ann's Light Seer's Tarot, one of my new favorite decks, and I am gonna pull a card in a second and then come up with a topic to talk about. Let me give it one more shuffle. I do all my riffle shuffling off of camera because it can be kind of loud, so this is a well shuffled deck already. I'm going to set the deck down in front of me and take a moment to sort of center myself and focus. I like shuffling or stacking. I'm cutting the deck into 3 parts, and then I stack it up from the opposite way. So the one that was on the bottom goes to the top, the middle stays in the middle, and the one that was the stack that was at the top of that now goes on the bottom. So we're pulling heavenly information down into the earth, with the human being standing in between those 2 realms. At least that's, the little mumbo jumbo bit that works for me. Then I'm going to pull a card off of here. What we got here? Okay. Haha. So I've pulled the Star. I just had this card come up in a class about maybe about a week ago. And one of the things we were talking about a little bit in that class, this actually was pulled out for a particular reading in a sort of a position set of spreads that we were doing. One of the differences between the hair washing in the stream sort of traditional image and Chris Ann's representation is this string that's attached almost like a kite string from the person to the light. And what it's looking like to me now, today, is that there's something creative or volitional happening here, where maybe this light in the sky is actually being generated by the person in the card, by the person at the bottom of the card. And maybe, maybe I'm reading into it, but it feels that way right now. And I'm a big fan of, during readings, if a feeling occurs to you or a thought occurs to you or a song or a scene from a movie, I bring it up while I'm reading. I find that those things are functional and useful. So let's talk about a topic, or let's pick a topic. Here's where I am right now. So I'm recording this, and we are in the United States here, getting to the point where we're noticing a lot of our COVID restrictions of the past year and a half or so are being removed. People are getting vaccinated and handling, and it looks like maybe we've got a handle to some degree on COVID. In my state, we don't have a lot of people that are against vaccination, so we're making what feels like pretty good strides against that. And in fact, as a teacher, just last week and then this week, I had my second set of singing classes where I'm able to actually sing with the kids in person. Now, we're still all masked. We've got to wear the KN95 masks and all of that. But oh my gosh, it is such a heartwarming space to be in. Oh, and that brings me to my topic idea, because I warned some of the other teachers, not warned, but I let some of the other teachers know that now that we're back to singing after not having sung since March the year before, I've chosen lots of sort of healing songs. Some songs talk about how difficult things maybe have been and how we're coming into a space where there's some light and some hope around us. Hope's one of my keywords for the star cards. But that they should be aware, or at least aware that the kids may be, I teach middle schoolers, may be experiencing some vulnerability as they learn how to open up their hearts I'll go so far as to say is that when we are singing together, especially in groups, that's an immediate way to channel feelings through, higher feelings through, and bodily feelings through, into our voices and send them out into the world. It's a very real phenomenon. So that, especially immediately after my classes, so I've let the teachers know in particular that, pick up the next class after mine, that they may discover, depending on what we've wound up singing, that the kids are in a more vulnerable place. And the star, for me, has a lot to do with vulnerability. So we can talk about our vulnerability. We'll divide it up into two parts. One part being the vulnerability that we have as tarot readers, which is a pretty vulnerable thing. We're one-on-one most of the time with people, or even more so. Sometimes we read at, at parties or events where there are crowds or other people around. And we're offering our insights and our feelings and whatnot. So that takes some courage. And then the second piece of that is the vulnerability that we'll experience in our clients that we need to remind ourselves to make space for. And there may be some tricks and tips in there that might be useful for how we can handle that, and even encourage it to bring it out. Vulnerability and hope. So the first thing that I want to mention here is within the story of the tarot, a lot of times, especially if it's a quick reading with a small number of cards, or maybe even a long reading with a small number of cards, I like to talk about the majors when they show up, sort of in sequence, even if the previous majors or succeeding majors don't show up. So in this case, we've got the star, number 17 in the series. That follows number 16, which is the tower, which follows number 15, which is the devil. Now, I could keep going back and tell a chronological story, but let's, in a reading, practically in a reading, I usually won't go any further than the devil if I've got card 17. So the devil, for me, I love that it's associated with the letter Ayin from the Hebrew alphabet, which can be literally translated, and again, you can correct me if I'm wrong about this, but I don't think I am. I think I've got it as the eye. The eye, the part of us that sees. So the devil, for me, in terms of coming to terms with the pieces of our life that we have become attached to. These could be habits. These could be stories or pictures. These could be projections that we put onto the world. These could be physical addictions. There's all sorts of things that we attach ourselves to. And more often than not, when we attach ourselves to them, it's because they've become survival mechanisms, especially when we're kids. There are things that we attach ourselves to, which could just be mistakes or assumptions that we've made that aren't necessarily supported by the world. And then we've never questioned them because they're just a part of the thing. And they could also be actual survival mechanisms that we've developed because something in particular in our lives might be hard. This could be anywhere from some sort of not spousal, when we're children, parental abuse, bullying, ways in which we've learned to not honor who we are. So like a dyslexic child may have issues with that. A left-handed child, especially in past generations, people that are my generation or older, may have developed some wounds around things like that. As a singing teacher, one of the things I actually have talked about fairly frequently, especially if I'm up to speak with some parents on like an informational evening or something like that, is this idea that one of the wounds that human beings take into themselves so deeply is if someone mentions to them that they shouldn't sing, or that they don't have a beautiful voice. Sometimes we only need to hear that one once, and it stays with us for the rest of our lives. I also work with amateur singers, and I've been told more than once about how somebody has been struggling with that wound, and they signed up for a program or something that I was involved in, and that I helped them come to terms with that. Not necessarily that I step far out of my way to do that, but I do feel that every human being has a beautiful voice. So let's go there for the start. As tarot readers, our medium is talking, is responding to images. So in one piece of that, we've really got to take care of our instrument. That becomes important. And you'll hear lots of remedies like, oh, if you're getting a hoarse voice, like for instance, if you're doing a festival or a party where you're reading for 3, 4, 5, 6. One time I even did 8 hours in a row, took no breaks and just did it. Luckily, I'm actually a trained singer and I could notice when my voice started to get hoarse and take precautions. The two biggies for this, regardless of what anyone else says, and there are other things that work for sure. Tons of hydration, lots of water. People swear by hot tea. You'll hear hot tea and honey or hot tea with lemon and honey. That's all fine. I find that sometimes the lemon actually clouds the back of my throat a little, and I do find as a diabetic that tea with honey is sometimes kind of difficult to gauge how many carbohydrates I'm putting into my body. Plain hot water that has tea in it, also fine. Even just water, room temperature water, great, right? Keep the system lubricated. That's the first one. And then another one, simple one, is to not speak too much, and or not too quickly or not too aggressively. So keep your voice kind of soft and quiet. Place it in the mask when you have a higher approach. So the Irish accent is a great one for this. If you place a slightly higher tone and then you put your voice way in the front of your face rather than way back in your throat, which is where my natural voice sits. Maybe that's because I grew up in Pittsburgh and that's a part of the Pittsburgh accent. I don't know, but those two things: water, and then don't talk too much. Make sure you're placing your voice well, but don't talk too much. So as soon as you notice your voice getting hoarse, take breaks. Really take that 5 minutes that you have in between your reading, not to talk to other people that are close by, but actually take a break and be silent. That is a vulnerability that we all share as tarot readers. Secondarily, if you've got some issues or problems with your voice, if you judge your voice, if you don't like your voice, those kinds of things, we want to relax those as much as we possibly can. Everybody has a right to speak. Everybody has a tone, color, and a human quality to their voice that is uniquely theirs. And just as a human being, just by the fact that you are here on the planet with everybody else at the same time, you got a right to be here. And you are beautiful. And I don't mean that in a simple qualitative way. Some people may find you beautiful. Some people may love your voice. Other people might not. But at the functional, fundamental base of this idea is we're all here for a reason. We incarnated. We came onto this planet to do something, to learn something, to share something, and most of us for more than one reason. When we speak, when we sing, we take organs that are inside of us. We bring the outside world in, we breathe into our lungs, and as we exhale that breath, it goes through our vocal folds here, and they vibrate, and we organize the randomly moving air that we breathed in, and we send it out back into the world, vibrating in a pattern. And with language and pitch and tone, these things literally affect the molecules of the people that we are speaking to. So maybe that's the issue that I've actually am talking about in this case, is not just vulnerability, but tarot readers and their voice, because I notice my time is moving quickly. The vulnerability of the people that we're talking to. I did promise to talk about that, but maybe I'll even put that into vocal contexts as well. Here's a couple of things. One of the first ones is I let my clients know very quickly, especially if they're a new client, that they need to share very little of their lives to me. I don't do this specifically to make them feel safe, but that's one of the effects that it has. I do this mostly so that things feel more valid. If they know that I have no idea what we're talking about, then when something I say really hits home for them, they know I'm not playing games with them. They know I'm not doing cold reading. But what I do is I inform them with my pace of speech and the times that I take great pauses. And I'll tell you, even when I'm doing these videos, I take some pauses here and there. And sometimes I cut them out because when you take pauses that are too big, YouTube audiences often click away. So I'll reduce those pauses. But when I'm speaking like this, I will take moments to sit and think before I speak again. And as you do that, it puts your client into a more relaxed, comfortable listening place, so that when they are able and ready to speak, they do so more slowly. They do so more thoughtfully. And that allows them to connect to their heart, to mean that they're not speaking without thinking, which is something we often do in our culture all the time. And it comes out truthfully, right? Same for us when we take those pauses, when we slow down. And by doing that, we become safe. We create a safe space within our rhythm of speech, within our calmness of speech. I don't often raise my voice in a reading. There are occasions when I make it more animated, or if I'm channeling another individual. You can almost feel it right now when I'm putting myself into that mode where maybe somebody that they're dealing with, or maybe even the person I'm reading for, and their emotional state clouds into mine a little, and that might bring some more animation into my tone, into my volume level, into my pace, my rhythm, my speed. But I do try to practice keeping myself conversational. I don't want to be uncomfortably slow, but I keep myself slow and quiet and calm. The star gives us space. Above us in that sky, there are these tiny points of light that are so far apart. The idea of actually physically traveling between them is an impossibility. We'll never be able to do it in a human lifespan and with human technology. The photons that have been traveling from those stars to even get to us have been traveling sometimes for millions of years. In fact, the stars that we're looking at, some of them have already died, and their light is just reaching us now. I find that an interesting thing. I love the sense of space that we get in the star card. And if we can be quiet and listen and calm and comfortable, we can allow that space to embrace us, to fold us in, so that we feel hugged, held by the universe itself. Okay, so that's my star card. It moved in a direction that I wasn't even intending when I came up with the topic about using the voice and our calmness of speech and the spaces that we put into our speech as a technique to make people feel safe, to move them into a place where they can really listen, and to where they are connected with the meaning of their words, so that they don't just blab or blather, so that they're really, really connected to speaking their own truths. Okay, we'll see you next time. Things are moving at Tarot Off the Cuff. We've got new projects, things going on, and I may even have a few new faces for you to see relatively soon. Thanks so much. I am Kevin Quigley. We've been reading with Chris Ann's Light Seers Tarot, and this conversation was inspired by the star. Hi, thanks for watching. This is Kevin Quigley with Tarot Off the Cuff. If you can take a second, click the subscribe button down below. That'll let you know when a new video is posted and you might want to jump over and watch it. If you hit the thumbs up for the videos that you really like, that will help spread the word, so new people will find Tarot Off the Cuff in their feed, and that helps the channel grow. That would be great. And if you got a question or a comment, positive or negative, whether you agree or disagree, or if you want to add information or your own take on a particular card or a particular topic, put a comment down below. We would love to hear from you. Thanks so much.